Welcome to those of you who are on time. It is precisely 11:01, so we will go ahead and get started. This is our last HR session, and it's the last of all of the training sessions that we actually have for right now. We are looking at doing, I'm just doing, my general housekeeping announcements. We will be having a few more networking sessions. The 30th of July will be the next one. It's not up on our site yet, but it should be shortly. So we'll be doing those monthly through September. We are also waiting for notification of some sort from the Department of Agriculture concerning their plans for licenses, like what the actual new dates might be. My program manager at DCEO reached out, had her general counsel reach out to counsel at Department of Agriculture. So, because that'll help us with planning all of the remaining activities that we have for you guys. So as soon as I know that information, I will pass it on. I do not know anything, and you guys know me. You know, as soon as I hear something, I let you know. I do know that some people have received deficiency notices already. I do know that. And I do know that I know of at least one person who got theirs probably around 9 or 10 days ago. So, so at least we do know that the applications for infusion, craft grow, and transportation are being looked at, and some people have already gotten their deficiency notices. So there is progress being made on them, but unfortunately, that is all the information we have. As it relates to, and I'll say this again at the end because I know everybody's not here yet. As it relates to certificates, because I know many of you who have attended all of our sessions, and you are eager to receive your certificate for having completed all of the sessions in this HR series. So what we are going to do, obviously we'll gather all of the attendee information after this session, look at everyone who has attended all of them, and begin issuing those certificates. In the event that you missed a session, I'm going to give you until July 31st to make up, which is a Friday, to make up any sessions that you've missed. I sent an email out this past week, I believe it was Tuesday after I got back to town, with the links to every previous session. So sessions 1 and 2 are available in our Dropbox. Sessions 3 through 5 are available via rebroadcast on Zoom. If you missed session 1 or 2 and you want the certificate, the only way for us to know and confirm that you attended session 1 and 2, because it's available for download via Dropbox. We can't see who downloaded it. So the only way for us to verify that you actually attended it if you missed is for you to take a small quiz. So if you missed sessions 1 and 2, and it's only if you missed, you'll need to take the quiz. You let us know that you want to take the quiz by sending us an email at cannabis@the-prep-school, and I will type this in the chat, but I can't talk and type. By sending us an email at cannabis@the-prep-school, or by calling Sinette at 217-497-9227, and we will get you on the list for the quiz. Don't have the quiz yet, so don't ask me for it today, because I don't have it yet, because Desiree is going to send it to me. We haven't put it out there yet. So you'll get it soon. We'll get it to you. We'll make sure you get your certificate. So I want to make sure I covered all of that. I don't think I have anything else to cover. So with that being said, I am going to turn it over to Desiree, whom I know you all are very familiar with and have thoroughly enjoyed, as have I. So I will, last thing I should say, in case anybody happens to be new, is if you have a question, please type your questions in the Q&A. We will answer them as we go along. And with that being said, and Desiree, I can't see your screen yet. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to Desiree.
I didn't want to do it while you were talking.
Okay. And I will turn my camera off.
All right, sounds good, Tricia. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It sounds like we're all enjoying some nice heat, whether we're on complete the West Coast or where you guys are. So we'll go through this and get you onto your weekend. Well, I want to thank everyone for being along our HR journey the past couple months. So we are rounding out today's seminar with going over some HR systems and trends. Before I begin, just a quick disclaimer. I'm a human resources professional and not a labor attorney. So the information that I provide are for informational purposes only and not intended to give legal advice or legal representation. So I just put my disclaimer there. These are things I've learned from my about over 20 years of HR experience in building HR departments and working with startups and small businesses, large businesses, family owned. So sharing my experiences with you all. So over the past couple months, we have gone through the employment life cycle. We've talked about employee recruitment and selection and everything that went with that, with onboarding employees. We talked about employment laws, federal and state, to be aware of. We moved from there to talking about employee management. So that was performance management and some other things in the workplace. Then we went through employee separation. We talked about how to discipline employees and offboard them when needed. And then the last couple sessions have been more managing the workplace in regards to some kind of physical things that are needed. Last seminar was on leaves of absences. And this week it's going to be more kind of like the background stuff that we need to prepare for our employees. So today's focus will be managing the workplace, and that's going to be with having the right systems in place. So just as important as it is for us to have all of our things ready to go for when we actually do the hiring and know kind of the, I want to say kind of the front of the house stuff, right? So we need to know how we're going to, get the meals to our customers, but we also have to have the behind the scenes. We have to order the food and have the right chefs in place and all that as well to even prepare the meal. So that's one of the best ways I can kind of, I guess, describe how we're going to focus on today's seminar. So our agenda today, we're going to look at some different types of HR systems that you want to be aware of. And I know many of you guys are just going to be starting out. So some of this may be kind of like, whoa, that's a lot to, to think about. But you always want to be in HR, whether it's with employees or your systems, proactive. You don't want to get to the point where you have systems that are all over the place and you have to kind of bring it together. I worked for a company, a family-owned company, and we had about 250 employees. We averaged 230 to 250. And because as they grew, they just kind of added in random systems. They would, get a type of finance system, then they threw in a payroll, then they would throw in a time and attendance. And when they got to over 200 employees, or as they grew, none of their systems talked to each other. So had they kind of planned it better from the beginning, as they grew to kind of get systems and programs that would grow with them, it wouldn't have been so hard to kind of rein it in. And then they ended up having to spend a lot of money to upgrade these different systems to get it to where they needed it to be, and talking to each other, because the more they spoke to each other, it allowed for efficiencies to happen and actually kind of less people, because they had to hire different people to manage each stage of the systems almost. So that's why this is so important to know immediately. Everything I go through today, you will not need, day one, but at least it gets those conversations going and kind of have you in the back of your mind kind of thinking about things. So we'll go through different systems. We'll talk about payroll systems, time and attendance, scheduling, applicant tracking, benefits, what the HRIS system is, and we're just going to talk about and end today with some trends and resources. And then as always, questions. And like Tricia said, as we go along through each section, please feel free to ask questions. And we'll also have time at the end for questions as well. So we have our HR systems, and when I refer to HR systems, those are, again, all the things behind the scenes that support your employment functions. So the first of those systems today, of course, one of the most important, right, is your payroll. How are you going to get your employees paid? As a new company, most of startups and my new clients, they will have QuickBooks. And QuickBooks, as many of you guys are probably familiar with, is a good system. It's a great foundation. It's owned by, I think, Intuit, and they have TurboTax and a bunch of supporting products. And they're great for companies that have probably less than 5 employees. It's cost efficient. You can build on it. It'll do your payroll checks. It'll calculate. So those are some, things that you'll take a look at. What you want to be aware of is the things that it does not do, though. I had a client I started working with at the end of last year. They had 4 employees and they were using the TurboTax. Unfortunately, TurboTax isn't always good in regards to compliance. And in a lot of states, and here in California, you have to do quarterly filings of your payroll taxes and things. Well, of course, QuickBooks didn't let them know that, and they didn't have anyone like a bookkeeper working with them or an accountant working with them, and they found themselves already in just a couple months of business with having a violation and fines because they were out of compliance because they didn't pay their taxes. So those are some of the things that with some of the just beginning products, it'll do the job, but you want to take a look at compliance and some things. So I always, suggest too, if there's 5 employees and you look at, you're going to be growing and growing fairly quickly. A lot of companies now, when you're not getting anything super fancy and you just kind of need payroll process, it's fine to just go ahead and look into actual payroll processing companies. And I know some people say, oh, that just sounds so expensive and my startup costs. But I'll tell you, just having payroll companies, I worked for a payroll company and I've researched payroll companies on behalf of companies and my clients, and they're very competitive. I got what they were paying with QuickBooks, and I had a contact with ADP, and I reached out to a salesperson there and I said, hey, this is what my client's paying for QuickBooks. What are you guys able to offer? And they were within a couple dollars per person, if that. They were very close into matching the same prices that they had with QuickBooks, but more services. They filed the quarterly taxes. They did if there was any new hire reporting that needed to be done. So that way the clients were handled with the, the basic payroll part of it, but also the compliance part of it. So that's something to look at. Okay. So when you're taking a look at choosing a payroll company, take a look at the features. And again, you may not need all the features initially, but it's kind of good to see, okay, one day when I need that, they have that for me. So you want to take a look at anything outside of it. Take a look at how they handle the tax obligations. If you need multiple pay options. So for example, we always think payroll check, right? But how many of us really get an actual live check anymore? So you want to see, do they have other payroll options? Do they do debit cards, direct deposit? And if they do, is it additional cost? What debit card companies do they work with? What's the functionality of their cards? So this, the debit cards are really good for employees that don't have bank accounts. And, we'll have employees out there that have that. So you want to take a look at some other pay options as well. Do they have where they can offer multiple pay rates in the system? Sometimes you have employees that's called dual rated. So let's say you want to offer an employee a regular wage, but if they come in and work, graveyard shifts or on weekends, you want to give them like a premium pay, or they're doing a training wage also. Maybe you want to offer that to them. And so you can put multiple pay rates in the system. So those are some things to look at as well. And also garnishments, because team members will have garnishments. You'll have child support garnishments, tax garnishments, student loan garnishments. They'll also have things set up from, I had employees that had garnishments due to all types of things. Let's see, student loans that you'll get. So, you'll want to see for your, what they're able to offer and if that's an additional cost. Did we have any questions coming through?
No, not yet.
Okay, I thought I saw some questions. Okay. So you'll want to take a look at that. Do they offer other services, workers' comp administration, unemployment? Some companies even offer assistance with responding to unemployment claims. They'll have assistance with that where you send it to them and they'll send it off to the different agencies on your behalf. So those are things. And again, it may not be anything that you need immediately, but if it's something you can build on, that's good because like I said, you don't want to be in a position later as you grow where you're trying to scramble. You can just, have a expand with a company that's already familiar with your company and you have that relationship with and that you're working with. So ease of use, is it easy to understand? The biggest thing too are the payroll reports. I had some companies that were using ADP. ADP has been around a long time, and I think they're the oldest payroll company, but their payroll reports used to be awful. And there was, it's hard to kind of see the information, how they were organized wasn't easy. So those are things you want to take a look at. They've gotten better these days and where you can actually create your own reports and stuff like that. But it used to not be that great. And then they have different ways of how you can file your payroll. I have companies, that are simple as they'll fill out the paper stuff and fax it over. I don't know if many people actually do that anymore. They have where you can enter the information online and transmit it that way. So what's the ease of sending the information over? How easy is it to add employees to the system? Can you go in? That's another thing for new hires. Is it easy to go in, put in their information? Is it easy for your employees to use to see their information? So those are all things to take a look at. Is it easy to update information if you want to give people an increase or something? How do you do that? Do you get an individual, a payroll specialist assigned to your account? Or when you call, do you go in the general queue and you can get anyone each time you call? So what kind of relationship building does that company do? Those are all the different questions to ask and look for. And of course, the cost, right? You don't want anything that's going to be super expensive. A lot of times payroll counts are based off of per employee. So they'll have an initial kind of setup fee. They'll get all your information. And then as you grow, the cost may increase. So it's nice if they do a range where it says like 1 to 10 employees, it's $5 per employee. And then as you grow, it becomes $5.25 per employee. So see what their costs are. Most companies don't have long-term contracts anymore. If you have a bigger, more robust system, they might, because there's more dealing with implementation and things like that. But typically it's month to month. So if it doesn't work out, you give your month notice and you can transfer to a different company. And also, what's their reputation? There's so many payroll companies out there today. You have the large ones that have been around. You have your Ceridians, you have your Paychecks, you have your ADP. So you have those. And then there's a lot of newer companies. And when I refer to newer, any payroll company that's been around like less than 10 years is still in the industry considered new. So take a look at that. They have some companies like, for example, Paycom. I will warn you, do not sign up for Paycom. It will cost you later. We had that as a company. That's one of the things. Usually I don't give disclaimers and stuff like that and have people do their research, but that's one I've experienced that they're still fairly new in the industry and their systems are horrible. But yeah, take a look at those. Take a look at different, sites. Talk to HR professionals that you have access to, and bookkeepers and your accountant. Accountants work with a lot of these systems, so they can kind of tell you also from their side of point of view and getting information out for your taxes, who's a good fit as well, and some industry information also. So you want to take a look at that because that's very important because these are people that have actually used them. Oh, another thing that you can do with companies is you can say, do you have any other businesses you work with that are in my industry or my size? And see if, you can get a referral and talk to other companies that have worked with them and how they like them and ask questions. I've done that a couple times when we've shopped for payroll companies, and we've also been a resource to other companies. So that's something you can ask about as well. So integrations. So you want to take a look at how does it connect to other systems you may have. So let's say you have a time and attendance system that you like. Does that feed into your payroll? So when your employees clock in and they have their hours, does that feed directly into your payroll system, or do you have to manually input that data now into your payroll or extract it somehow and do an extra download? So again, you want to see, and then also, how does that connect it also to your accounting software and systems and things? Because to have it where it connects from your time and attendance system to payroll and to your financial software, because a lot of accounting offices or whoever you're using for your financial side of things, they're going to need to do that to know your taxes and to do reporting. So how easily does it feed into that or be able to extract that information? So what's the support look like? So what's a payroll service, how can they provide help when you need it? Some of these companies, it's good to know where their payroll is based out of. So for example, Paychecks, they have branches in different states and all over. So chances are, if you have an after hours question or something happens, there's someone either in your time zone, in your state, or in your same time zone that you can get a hold of. Because a lot of times, when we're doing payroll or processing it, we're doing it after hours, maybe on the weekend. And if you run into an issue, can you get help? That we ran into that with the company of one of my companies I worked for, where we're in California, but our payroll specialists were in Oklahoma. So when we were still open and doing business, if something happened, we had to see, okay, in Oklahoma, what time is it there? Are we going to get any support? Or do they have a 24/7 call center that they have manned, where if you don't get your exact specialist, you can get a group that get your questions answered? So that plays a big part in things as well. And then outages. Online payroll services these days are pretty much cloud-based. So for security reasons, you want to find out, how do they protect your information and your company's information? A lot of payroll companies have done a very good job at this. As we know, they have the cyber attacks these days. And I'll tell you, there's many companies, major, hospitals, colleges, that they have employment records and medical records that these companies will hack into their accounts, and they'll put a freeze and you have to pay to get this information back. And so, you don't want to have that with your payroll, because in your payroll systems, you have people's socials, you have pretty much their dates of birth, everything someone would need about them to do some bad stuff or to sell, right? So we want to make sure that that's kept secure. So confirming with them, and do they have any outages? What are their backup plans with things? How can they keep it things going for you, the client, if something happens and you need your payroll and things done? And then what type of self-service options do they have? So of course, when you run payroll, they can send you your checks out, and they have direct deposit where they can, send it and on the debit cards and things. But what if you have someone quit at the last minute and you need to cut them a manual check or get them a check ASAP? How would that work? Some companies you can call, they'll give you the numbers and calculations, and you write them a check off of your, maybe directly from your business account, and then they have a way that you could print up the pay stub to go with it. So they have services like that. There's some of them where you can go in the system and print a payroll check, and then they'll add it to your next payroll. So, and they just call it kind of what's called an off-cycle pay run. So find out, how do they do that stuff. Also find out when they pull the funds for payroll. So for example, if your payroll runs on a Friday, and on Wednesday they say, well, you need to process, and then we pull the funds on whatever day, they may say, well, we pull the funds the same day as you do payroll, or we pull it 2 days before, for just, again, business purposes and financial. You want to make sure that they're not pulling it before you're ready for them to pull the funds and things. So those are things to look at as well. But you want to look and see, can you view digital pay stubs? What do they do for year-end tax forms? Are those available online? Is there an employee self-service that they can go on and look at it? I mean, the biggest thing these days are employees can have an app on their phone, and they can go on and see, their benefit information, how much vacation or sick time they have accrued. They can get a copy and download their most recent paycheck stub. which is great for them to do that because that's less that they have to bother you. So if they're refinancing their house and they need to pass paycheck stubs, they can get it themselves and not concern you with it. When they're doing their taxes, you can have it where all the W-2s are electronic and you don't have to physically mail them out. Typically that costs more. So those are all the things that are that you want to make sure that the companies have. And again, a lot of the companies that have been around a while, they have that, and it'll be a lot of times part of their basic packages as well. And some other things to take a look at. A lot of the payroll providers do offer additional services that you can build on. Some of them even have HR types of services, or they can do employment handbooks that they can help you do, or they'll do trainings as well. Those services are typically pretty expensive because they come with another person with it. So, but again, as you grow, it's always just good to know these things. Do they offer retirement plan administration? Because that's nice to build in, where you can have that already, again, that connectivity where when payroll is run and your employees and yourself can contribute to a retirement plan, and it automatically goes to your payroll company, who's also the administrator to it as well. So that's it's good to know. And some of them are also benefit providers, where they act as a broker, and you can also set up benefit services through them as well. The payroll companies have gotten better over the years. I still would highly suggest using just an outside benefits person. And a lot of times they can still work within their systems, just because a lot of payroll companies are still fairly new when it comes to benefits and how they get those plans and integration, that there's still some kinks in those systems. And other questions to consider when choosing the payroll service. How often are their tax tables updated for compliance? Again, the larger companies that have been around a while, they have whole divisions and stuff that focus solely on taxes and staying on top of tax laws and things. So you'll be fine. And also keeping in mind that outside of taxes, if you've signed up for their tax services, the payroll company, it's good to have, because then it's good as a step forward to making sure with your compliance, but they do not completely assume compliance responsibility for you. And I say that because there's a lot of companies that said, well, you're my payroll company, you should have known if I wasn't paying proper overtime, or if I wasn't doing this and that. Their disclaimer is going to always be that the employer is ultimately responsible. So they may give you, updates and say, hey, just FYI, minimum wage is going up for your area and you should update this, that, and the other. But they will also, with the quickness, let you know that they are not responsible. The only time that there's going to be an issue is if they mixed up on a tax item for you and you have their tax services. Another thing is, do they have clients in your industry? In regards to what I was saying about being able to get referrals, see who they work with. Is there anyone that you can talk to that you can kind of pick their brains and see, in your industry or your size of company, how it's worked for them? Can they integrate with your other employee benefit offerings? So let's say you've already have some of your other things set up. You already have a system you use for your accounting software. You already have a system for your benefits. Can they connect it? And then also, how do they handle your business and company as it grows? What are the costs that increase with that? Because when we, are initially doing shopping for things, we're looking at where we are now. What about when we start to grow? Because we don't want to get to the point where we're like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize it was going to go up this much. That's, that's a crazy price, and have to look at changing. And then we talked about already what type of security measures are in place. How do they secure your data? Okay. Any questions so far? Any questions on payroll systems or softwares? Okay. We'll go into the next section. We have time attendance and scheduling systems. So your time and attendance system is primarily going to be for your hourly non-exempt employees. This is going to be a way for you to capture their time and be ready for payroll. So you have this is an old school time clock here that I have, but again, if you start off, you have a couple employees, you're always welcome again to just do the basic, time spreadsheet that you can use, or an Excel file or smart sheets or something like that. Have your employees put it in, data input into payroll, and send it about its way. And that's completely fine and compliant to do. Just some things to think about with that is that you want your pay to be as accurate as possible. And when you do kind of the write-in system, then you're depending on the honor system for employees to properly document their time and their lunches and everything. And then and also record keeping, because each of those pay spreadsheets need to be retained for your records. So for about 7 to 10 years. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of cabinet space to keep track of those. So, and even if you start with that and switch to a system, you still have to maintain that. Whereas if you use a time and attendance system, those are automatically maintained electronically. So those are some things to think about as well. So when you're tracking employee times, it's very important that you pick a system that are going to be complete, accurate, and always current. You want to make sure that you roll out to your employees how you want it completed and the time accuracy of it. A lot of times you'll have, and the biggest issue that you'll have, whether employees are remote employees or on-site employees, are them filling things out properly. If you have kind of a clock-in system, it does make it easier, because it's like when they get to work, that's the first thing they have to do. And when they leave, that's what they have to do, versus having a system where they have to write it down on something. So, those are some things to consider. Best practice for tracking employees' hours is to have a system that's streamlined. So when we talk about, again, streamline, a system where they clock in and it feeds automatically into your payroll system. And then after that, then they have to, when you run payroll, they go online and they have to electronically approve their time. You always make sure you want to have a way, whether it's a paper form that they initial or sign, that their hours are accurate, or electronically. And this is just because, again, anything with employee pay you want to verify and have them sign off on, because you definitely don't want to get in a situation where there's potentially back paid owed or a discrepancy in pay. And anytime that there's a discrepancy, you go to your documentation. And times when your documentation is not clear, you want to err on the side of the employee. And I'll tell you, there's some people that they figure out loopholes in the system, and you don't want to have to end up paying out any more than you want to, either directly to the employee or any type of wage and hour claim situation. So whether the system is manual or automated, difficult aspects of tracking and approving hours become harder with the system that is not followed consistently. So again, whatever system that you have, make sure you stick to it and people are trained on how to use it. Make sure your managers and supervisors are trained on it as well. And it's good to be consistent. So if you have different positions, but they're all hourly employees, it's good to have everyone doing the same system. And then maybe for your managers or exempt employees, you may have a different system. But you definitely don't want to say, well, we have some employees that are more comfortable filling out the forms, so they do the forms. Some employees, they do electronic timekeeping. I have a client now to where she's gotten into the bad habit to where they have most of her employees are field employees, and they have a little bit over 100 employees, and they have ADP for their payroll. And one of the nice things with a lot of the payroll companies is that they have for your remote employees and field-based employees, where they can track their time on their cell phones via an app, which is great. So they don't have to come physically on site anywhere to say punch in and punch out. They could do it on their phones. But there's times when that system is not perfect. And so they also have a timesheet as a backup that employees can fill out. Well, the problem is employees sometimes will, get in the field and get working, or they prefer to just fill out the timesheet. So then it's just two different record keeping systems of inputting time, and there's a lot of inaccuracies, and employees will constantly complain about missing their hours, and you guys didn't pay me for this and that. And then when she does her research, she can see that she did, but what they're doing is they're taking advantage of the holes in the system. So she and I are always talking about, you got to pick one or the other. So yeah, so those are things that you definitely want to consider and think about. There we go. And these are some other systems. So different ways to capture times. And we talked about the manual system, just having a spreadsheet. And those are easy. You can find those at Office Max or Staples, or even just Google it online and find different types of weekly, weekly time sheets or biweekly time sheets. So you can find that. And then you also have what's called a biometric system. And so if you want to have something that employees actually come in and clock in and out to, you have an employee like a card swipe. So the bottom right, I have a picture of that where they come in and they can either punch in their employee number and do that, or they could swipe. You also want to have a way that you can have kind of like I want to call it, I guess, a cheat-free system. You don't want employees clocking in for other people. And that happens, right? You have someone that's coming in that's running late and they call ahead and say, you know, hey, Joe, are you in the office here? Can you go and punch your clock in for me? So you want to avoid that. So if employees have their own identifier information, then you can tell, you know, they have their own card swipe or the biometric with this, which is the thumb scan. It's hard for somebody else to clock in and out for them. And things. So it also helps keep them honest. So those are things to think about. You want to see, is it easy to use? You know, they have, like I said, phone apps that are available. You want to know for record keeping purposes, because you have to, again, maintain all those records by law. Remote access. So let's say, you know, right now we have, with the coronavirus days, you have people working from home at a lot of companies. And for the hourly employees where you need to keep track of their time, it's tricky for companies to be able to capture that. So, but if you have a company that's, let's say, web-based or have an app on their phone, they can go on and they can clock in and out remotely to keep track of their time. So that's something that you may want to consider if that's a situation you may be in where you ever have employees potentially working from home, or let's say out in the field doing some type of sales or something like that. And also having multiple options for capturing time. If you have multiple types of employees, you have in-person employees, remote employees, field-based, have something that can capture everything. Have something that's web-based if people working at home, something via their phone, the phone app, and then something again on site for them to clock into that all feeds into your payroll system. And then making sure it's accurate in capturing hours. You know, back in the early days as we were transferring from just the spreadsheet paper form to other systems, you know, when you typically have the traditional clock in and clock out punch system, it was hard for it to be as exact with the time. So we're often doing a lot of rounding. And a lot of states for the wage and hour laws, now there's timekeeping systems that can do to the second, you know, pretty much of accuracy in hours, you know, having a system that reflects that. So a lot of the rounding practices that we used to do are no longer they're kind of more frowned upon these days now that there's these systems that can capture it so accurately. So you want to make sure you have a system that can do that. And then we talked about connectivity to other systems, you know, integration to payroll, benefits. You know, we'll talk about in a little bit, integration to what's important is as we go through the different stages, as we talk to the employment life cycle, you know, where it can all connect together. So as you're doing your interviewing and recruiting, if you had one system that they can go on to do their applications and everything, interviewing, then when you hire them, it feeds right into your payroll system. That way it saves with a lot of data entry and things. Again, you don't need that day one, but it's something to think about, especially if you plan on growing significantly within your first year of business. Okay. Okay, any questions on anything dealing with payroll or timekeeping?
No questions thus far.
And also I just want to add to, when it comes to the time and attendance, figuring out how you're going to get your schedules to your employees is also important. You know, is it something that you're going to post? Is it something that they can, a centralized system that they can log into weekly or bi-weekly and look and see when they're scheduled? Can they request time off on that? So those are some other things to think about as well. And then again, you know, having a schedule that also can connect to your payroll software helps as well with accuracy of attendance and everything. Okay, so then we have our applicant tracking systems, and this is going to help with your recruiting, and we call talent management. Oh, did we have a question that came in?
Yep, we just had a question pop up. Okay, so the question is, what are some of the top systems best companies you've used for payroll and attendance?
I think I'm a fan of the oldie but goodies. I believe, you know, I think your paychecks is the companies have been around. Paychecks, ADP, Ceridian. Ceridian's pretty expensive. That's going to be for your companies that are larger. And they may have gone better on their pricing over the years just to be competitive. And they have more small business packages, for I understand. I haven't used them in a while. But I think between ADP and Paychecks, it pretty much, gets it done. They have some, sometimes they'll have some local companies and things for you that have good technology. But again, as you grow, seeing how they connect to other systems. ADP has a great system. I mean, again, like I said, they've been around forever. The only thing about them is implementation. And even the ADP reps, we laugh at this. And I'll tell them, you guys have a great system, but implementation of any products is horrendous. They still have yet to master that. And then Paychex is good as well. Paychex is very good. Their technology is good. I like how they have it set up with their employment, so with their employer support in regards to payroll support and having people that are individually assigned to you, and the different products that you can grow with, which is nice. They have a really good handbook service. That's one of the best probably in the industries with the handbook builder product that they have. Another thing, and I didn't put this on the slide, but that you want to be aware of are PEOs, preferred employer organizations. These are, and I don't know in your industry if how that will work, if you'll be able to even take advantage of that, but you may come across those. These are systems where payroll companies will have it to where, especially startups or high risk industries, can get a service to where your company gets kind of, I don't want to say absorbed completely in a larger company, but you go under their federal umbrella. So when you're starting up, your most expensive costs can be with your workers' comp, health insurance, and sometimes your unemployment rates. And when you go under the umbrella of a large company, you become kind of part of their company, so you spread your costs and your what's called your experience mods across everyone. So like, for example, for insurance, so it's kind of like when you buy into car insurance with a company, they're going to take your cost is going to be compared to other people in the area that are with your similar vehicle age range, because they spread the risk. So a lot of companies like that because it's less expensive for them, because as a new company, or let's say a new driver, right, you don't have any experience for them to go off of to base your rates. But when you go under a larger company, then they can base that off of everybody else in your business kind of range. So they do that. However, when that happens, though, those costs, those PEOs are more expensive. And when you decide you don't want to be under their umbrella anymore, you don't really show any history for your company in certain things because you've been under their Fed ID and not your own. So those are some things you might come across when, when you start your company. If your industries are high risk in regards to safety or something, I'd say look into it. But based off of what I kind of understand of what you guys are going to be doing so far, I think I would suggest it's better just to operate under your own entities. So, so I'll just throw that out there as we're going through, because you may come across that. Okay, so applicant tracking. Applicant tracking systems, or they call ATS, are going to be when you're out there and you're posting your jobs. You want a way to keep track of resumes and things coming in, where you are with the interviews, who you've hired, who you've made offers to, who maybe you want to keep in the queue, so to speak, and have, they maybe weren't your first choice, but they were a close second, and you want to be able to easily access their information next round of interviews and hires. So some things you want to take a look at are candidate experience. The best ways is kind of like your customers, right? And who you get, you want to make it easy for them to get to you. Same thing with your employees, future employees, your candidates. How can they find out about the jobs that you have available? How can they apply? And then how easy is that for you to extract and get that information to call them? So is it easy to submit? Any system that takes kind of more than 10 minutes for them to fill out, unless you're a government agency, it should be quick and easy, because the longer the application, the less people are going to want to fill it out, and they're going to go on to the next person or your competitor. Connectivity to social media sites. You want to get job exposure. You want to be able to connect to the different job boards quickly. And a lot of times the tracking systems can do that. They can, you put a job in there. It can also have it to where it connects to your page, your website, where you have like your careers page that you see a lot of companies have. It feeds into these systems. It also feeds and posts automatically into these different job boards, and where it makes it easy. So if you have a company Facebook site or LinkedIn, can also connect to that as well. So candidate sourcing, is it going to be able to get different types of candidates? So when you have good job exposure, you can pull candidates that may come to you from directly to your websites, to LinkedIn, to your Facebook site, all different ways. So then that way you get different types of people depending on where you're posting. And how does it store the resumes? Is it going to be easy to search? Will it at least store for a year? Is it easy to reference and sort? So those are things that you want to that you want to be taking a look at. Here are some of the top job posting sites. One of the best ones is Indeed. Indeed is a great site because multiple resources feed into this. So let's say there's companies that you can have your applicant tracking system set up through your payroll, and it'll also have a package where it connects to, let's say, a ZipRecruiter. Well, ZipRecruiter and some of the other sites automatically also feed into Indeed. So you don't have to post a job posting on Indeed and this and that. It'll all feed into one. And you can post separately on Indeed, but many of the other boards also feed into here, which is good as well. Indeed is one of the best sites to use. It reaches a good, let's say, a good group of employees. You'll have everyone from your experienced professionals on here to entry-level employees, and it's easy to use. They have an app where you can do like a quick apply. That makes a big difference. If employees have to actually log onto a computer to apply, you're going to lose people with that. Especially if they're entry-level employees. And what I was finding, a lot of employees, especially if they're technical in regards to skill trade and things like that, they don't have computers. So, entry-level employees, they don't have like the computers a lot of times at home. We used to suggest that people go to a library if they need a computer. Unfortunately, people don't go to the library as much anymore, especially our newer generation. So they don't do that. They're on their cell phones. That's their computer. So to have something that they can go on and have their resume where they just quick apply from an app is so much better versus having a system that only has them be more kind of like desktop or laptop friendly. I've been down that road a couple times, and we had a system where again, with the payroll company that I shall not name, the Paycom I was telling you about, that was one of the issues we ran into them, is because, and again, a lot of the things I tell you, I say from personal experience, where we said, great, we're going to use your applicant tracking system. And we had the platform where it fed directly into ZipRecruiter. Well, the only problem was when we would use the feed, it would feed into ZipRecruiter, but we lost the functionality with ZipRecruiter where we could have that quick apply feature. And at that time, we had employees that were primarily skilled trade. They were electricians doing cable installs and things like that for us. They didn't have computers and things at home, nor were they very computer savvy in regards to that sense. They mostly applied from their phones and filled out the quick information to quick apply. So we were unable at some point to use that part of the service because we needed that quick apply feature. Because when we did not have the quick apply, our candidate submission dropped by like 80%. So we really felt the effects of that. So that's why I say how important that is. So Indeed is a great site to use. They're fairly inexpensive, which is good. They're not the least expensive option, but they're not super expensive either. And they have where you can post based off of your price range, which you can afford, which is good. You can also have it to where, let's say you can't necessarily afford for people to apply on there. They have the next best things where you can just have access to resumes. So that's good as well. ZipRecruiter, I mentioned them. They're another good service. ZipRecruiter, one of the benefits of ZipRecruiter is that they can, based off of your job post and your job description that you put on for your for people to apply to, they will refer candidates to you off of their system that have keywords that they feel may connect to the job that you're looking for. So they may say, these are our suggested candidates for you. And that works out pretty decent. The bad side of it is that sometimes it'll put candidates in kind of like your no file, and you can still access and go through it, that are perfect candidates for you, but because of their algorithms and their AI features, for some reason it doesn't capture it. So that's the thing about ZipRecruiter that's not always good, but it's really good for applicant tracking. So especially if you have multiple people that are helping with interviews and go in and review and put notes. For a client of mine, I did remote recruiting on their behalf to help support their HR department. And the managers and things could go in and see notes and things like that I've made on different candidates. And they could also go in and mark candidates that they wanted me to interview on their behalf as well. So it's a really good system where it's easy for multiple people to use it and access it. And then you have Craigslist. I mean, I know a lot of people, may laugh at that, but Craigslist is nice and simple and basic. If you're just starting out and you need to hire your first 5 employees, you don't have a big budget, Craigslist gets the job done. I've used Craigslist a couple of times to advertise job fairs for a company. I had to, when I worked for a fast food chain, we had done a store rebuild and in the San Diego area. And my ops team kept telling me, oh, we got it, we got it. We have our employees that are returning, and we posted an ad on this newspaper site or something. And I knew it wasn't going to work. And I said, you guys don't have enough. We need to have 60 people ready this first day that the store opens. And we only have about 15 people that are coming back, and you need to hire quickly. So I went on to Craigslist in that area and I posted the job board. And so we got plenty of people to come down to interview for the job fair that we had. We got online things. And at that time, it was only $25. So we were able to be ready day one for staffing. And we did a big hiring fair and hired people on site because of just that $25 I spent. It's gone up. I think it's 45 these days, but it's still one of the less expensive sites. And it's easy to use. So that is an option as well. It's not the fanciest, I will warn you. It doesn't connect to anything or anything like that. It's just basic, if you need some resumes, you need people in, and there you go. Here's some other sites that you can also use. These are going to be a little bit more expensive. LinkedIn is great, but LinkedIn is good for professional positions. Let's say you need someone that's a director level, ops manager level, or something like that, or a specialty, then LinkedIn is a good one for that. But it is expensive, I will warn you. A posting could be hundreds of dollars each one. So it is expensive. Monster.com, that's still around. And I joke with Monster and Career Builder because probably about 10 years ago, they were the hottest thing around, and people used them. You saw them everywhere, and then they disappeared. And that's because the cost and the easy to use. When I talk about employees being able to go on and quick apply and have cell phone access, they were one of the ones later to the party in regards to getting those types of services set up. And so these other companies like the Indeed, ZipRecruiters, and stuff like that started passing them. And then they were expensive as well. So from what I understand, they're become better about being cost effective. When I talk to recruiters, they say that they use it a lot. Again, if you're getting entry level or hourly employees or skilled trade, you're not going to want to use a Career Builder or a Monster. They're not going to be the best for that. But if you're looking for someone at management level, then that's not a bad idea. But to me, they're not as relevant as they used to be. But again, my goal is to provide you guys with the information. But I'll tell you, I haven't used them in years and probably wouldn't. But I have friends that have staffing agencies that do use them. Glassdoor is good. Glassdoor is primarily for like a company rating system. where past employees can go on and say, oh, this company's good to work for or they're not. And, you know, the average, as an employee, you can find out information about, you know, the average wages for industries and stuff like that on there. And there's also an avenue to post jobs and to review resumes. You know, it has that functionality, but again, I wouldn't say it would be my first choice or even in the top 5. So, but I did want to put that one out there. Facebook has ways that you can do, you know, applicant tracking and stuff now and get people to apply. And you can connect it to, if you have a company Facebook site, there's ways to link it on there. And then industry sites. So for example, I'm in human resources. If I need to hire for HR position, I may post a job on SHRM or a local HR site so I can get HR professionals. So same thing, I'm sure that you guys have some industry sites that you can post directly on that site. So when people have to go to get certified or whatever it may be, they can look for their area and see the jobs there as well. So those are some things to look at. Another thing in industry groups. So for example, when I would be looking for security technicians or something like that, I joined Facebook groups of those professionals where they're sharing tidbits, and I would throw jobs on there and say, hey, I'm hiring for this and that. These types of employees, so you can apply here. And those are a straight shot to those employees there. And it's usually, again, it's low cost. So those are some great ways too to get your job ads out there and to get people that are in your field to apply. How are we doing? Any questions on this part so far of applicant tracking or job postings or anything?
No questions at the moment.
All right. Okay, so another thing to consider, again, this isn't something that you may need day one, but when you do need it, it's good to have. But if you know day one you want to offer benefits to your employees, then it's something that is, you know, that you do want to consider sooner than later. You know, these are all, again, systems that support as you have employees, whether it's how to capture their time, how to pay them, and then you have benefits. How are they going to enroll for benefits? How are you going to keep track of your benefit costs and plans? How do your employees get that information? So again, this is just one other system that's going to make your life easier. The more you kind of automate things and have your employees go to things to reference, the more time you will have. So many companies have benefit management systems. A benefit management system is a system that's, again, online, where an employee can log on and do their open enrollment. They can go on and get benefit information and download what company benefit plans you offer, what you have for medical, what you have for dental and vision, enroll. They can print off and look at comparisons. If they need to upload any supporting documents, it's all handled in that system. And if it's a good one, it's going to feed to the payroll carrier. So in a perfect world, you would have a new hire come on, and after 30, 60, 90 days when they're eligible for benefits, it'll send them an alert and a link to enroll. They can go online and enroll, see your benefit plans, put in all their information. It can feed directly to the benefit carrier. And then in the perfect world, also feed into your payroll system for deduction. So again, those systems and that connectivity cost you more. But as you can see how easy it is from having to do each set of manual entries as it goes from point to point to point, it can be a big time saver. So some things and features of having a benefit management system: the ease of uploading information and plan information. Ultimately, if an employee can go on and print off and see all different types of benefit offerings that the company has, the easier it is for you, because that's less time that you have to spend questions doing that, which takes away from your day-to-day to running the business. They can go on and take a look, and if they have any follow-up questions, then they can reference that. How easy is it for them to enroll? You know, is there multiple point access from computer to cell phone? You're going to see cell phone apps come up a lot, because I'll tell you that is the, you know, the day and age that we live in. Also, the good thing about having a cell phone app is that many carriers don't send out the actual physical cards anymore. For dental companies, I don't know many dental providers that even give those cards, and I know vision they don't anymore, pretty much, because you know, now you can have a system to where Your employee can have an app and their cards are electronic and right there on their phone app, along with their benefit plans, with their co-pays and things like that are. And I will tell you, just as an employee working for other companies, I've had that happen to where one of the things that rolled out with the Affordable Care Act was that there was no copay, regardless of what plan you had, for things that were preventative, like physicals and well woman exams. And I had gone in for a well woman exam, and they were trying to charge my copay. And I said, well, I thought there wasn't a copay for this type of thing. And they said, oh, well, well, how about you pay us, and then if we find out there isn't, we'll reimburse you. Well, yeah, right. So I said, well, wait a minute, I have it on my thing here. And I pulled up my, my quick kind of FYI on my coverage and said, oh yeah, here you go. And I showed it, and they said, oh yeah, I guess it isn't. So, and also it comes in very handy again for dental, because dental, there's so many different things that can be done. It's hard to keep up with those co-pays and what the coverages are. So it's nice when it's easily accessible for the employee. It'll save them money. Also, report capabilities are important from that. If I need to find out who's eligible for benefits, can I pull up a report to see who's coming up so I know who to get information to? If I want to see who's enrolled in what plan, especially if it's not connected to your payroll system, to be able to easily extract and get that information to upload and send to the payroll company is better, the easier that is. And again, I mentioned payroll company because it's nice to have that, because I can send it and they can upload it, versus if you have a QuickBooks or something like that, you're doing that on your own. So that's just another kind of separation there, and why it's probably better to have an official company, and when at what point you may want to transition from a QuickBooks to an actual payroll provider. Compliance, again, the Affordable Care Act, some things have been rolled back, but there is still some compliance that's involved in regards to when you may have to offer healthcare to employees, and reporting and doing the tax forms. So when your broker, your benefits broker, will help you with that as well. Another thing, a lot of the benefit brokers too will have access to systems. And as you grow, let's say you plan on being multi-sites and having, over 100 employees and stuff like that. The larger you grow, or if you have multiple businesses with one broker, they will pay for these systems for you. And health insurance brokers get a nice chunk of money from your benefit plans, especially as you start to grow larger. And you can leverage that, and if they want to keep your business, have them offer these other, have them cover the cost for you and some of this stuff. Also, the good thing is that they've got relationships with the different providers to be able to do that. And a lot of carriers now offer their own benefit management systems. So that's the nice thing. And then also, again, integration with other systems, integration with payroll carriers. So once an employee enrolls, getting those deductions uploaded easily in your payroll system, because each payroll that the deductions aren't coming out, guess who's covering the cost of those benefits? You are. So, and they have to wait for your cost to come back. You don't want, you need, your money cash on hand, right? You don't want to wait. And also, integration with benefit carriers, making sure that even though it's a system that can capture the information, it doesn't mean it's going to automatically connect to your Blue Crosses or your Health Nets or what have you. So how does it feed into them, and is it easy feed? And how does it also connect to your time and attendance systems to make sure that someone's eligible? If it does, then it's going to show that this employee is, let's say, regularly working 30, 40 hours a week and is now eligible and should be offered benefits. So sometimes that can be missed. Okay. Any questions with any of the benefit management or benefit systems with that?
Not seeing any yet, but really good information on.
All right, thank you. All right, moving right along. So next we move into our human resources information systems. And, as you guys are learning about HR, we like our acronyms. So we have our ways that we call this. So HRIS. So if you have someone that says, oh, what kind of HRIS system are you have, or HRM system or something like that, that's just and for human resource management systems or human resources information systems. So what is an HRIS system? This is the whole shebang, right? This is something that you may want to invest in and have day one, and it's not a terrible thing if you do, and check with your accountants, because I believe a lot of this is you can write off as your taxes. But this is all in one. You know, this is great. This will cover your applicant tracking. This is your whole employment cycle electronically from start to finish. This is your connectivity between someone interviewing and going through the interview process and job posting to hiring them. You hit a couple buttons and they go from being hired. You can do job offer letters that way as well. And it uploads into your payroll system. So you don't have to go in and fill in what the pay rate and things are really going to be for that employee. It just feeds right into it. It'll upload all the employees' information, their address and everything from when they were a candidate over into the payroll system. You can have electronic I-9s on here where they'll keep all your I-9s. You can have electronic even HR forms on these systems, some of them. And then if you need to do performance management, they have that attachment and resources in there electronically. So it's like everything connected to your employees, all web-based. So it's a one-stop shop. And you also have HRIS systems where you don't have to, let's say, turn everything on. You can use pieces of it as well. But it's a good employee management system. If you have someone calls where you need to get information for an employee, you can just go into the system and say, okay, we like to celebrate employees' birthdays. So let's go up and pull up and get a list of our employees and when their birthdays are so we can, keep an eye out for that. Or we want to celebrate employee anniversary dates. So we want to have a system that's going to let us know when someone's passed their introductory period or when they've been there a year and alert us. So there's a lot of things it can do. When I worked for a family-owned business, like I said, we had over 200 employees, and we were doing we had just transitioned from paper files to electronic files. But anytime I had to pull up information for an employee, we didn't have one centralized system. So I had to go onto our intranet. I had to go into the shared drive. Each employee had an individual folder, and then not everything, was properly scanned into the folders because they didn't realize when they went from paper files to electronic files, when you scan, let's say everyone's paperwork, it became one big PDF file. So if I had to look up something that, let me see their I-9, where their I-9 paperwork would be in the midst of a whole bunch of other potential files that they uploaded in paper. So it would take longer versus if I had to find out, let me get someone's address. In an HRIS system, I could go on and put in Joe Smith. Oh, got their address. Let me mail this out to them. Versus, okay, let me find what form and where they scan this form to get information on their address. So the easiest things became very complicated. So another benefit of having an HRIS system, and even oh my gosh, just nightmares about trying to find people's start dates and hire dates to verify employment when they would, do refinances and different things. So some things to think about. So a HRIS system, again, is an HR management system or online system to where it's a software that combines all of your HR systems and processes, and it ensures easy management of HR and business processes and data. Everything is right there. You can run different types of analytics reports. You can see what your turnover numbers are. You can see how many people are set up in different things and enrolled in benefits, how many of your hourly employees there are. You can do leave of absences and things in there. So it's a great system to have. Another thing for your HRIS systems, it can allow HR process to be electronic. It'll consolidate all your HR systems into one. So we kind of talked about what that looks like in regards to connectivity to applicant tracking, to payroll, to benefits, to performance, to offboarding. It'll, of course, when you have everything together in a one-stop shop, it makes things easier. It's efficient. So that way yourself and your managers can spend time actually running the business and bringing in profits and not having to piece through paperwork and other things to do things. and we talked already about streamlining activities and everything. And also, you know, again, that's self-access and information for employees. The more that you give them tools to go to get resources, the less you have to depend on what your managers know or remember, or you yourself, and having to find that information. You can easily say, oh, you know what, that's all in our, you know, in our PeopleSoft software is a well-known one, and they have some other ones. Workday is out, that's a big one. Workday is very expensive though. When you come to the PeopleSofts and Workdays, those are for the large companies because you can customize them, but they have, again, a lot of the payroll companies have pretty decent HRIS systems. Bamboo HR, from what I understand, is a pretty good system. The only thing about Bamboo HR is that they don't have a payroll component, so you'd have to find a payroll company that integrates with them. Most of them do, because Bamboo HR has been around. They're still newer, but some decent time enough where they have some good processes there. So, and again, the employees can, from a cell phone to a tabletop, a laptop or something like that, or a desktop, they can go on and get information. And you can upload company information. You can put your handbooks on there, employee forms. You can do time off on there, vacation accruals. You can have it to where an employee can request a day off or a holiday off or something like that, and it'll send you an electronic notification. You can approve or deny it and send it right back to them. So again, it just makes it easier and takes away from, you know, a lot of paperwork and things as well. And like I said, it is more expensive, but they do have some inexpensive options with it as well. Some things that they're not too bad. As you grow, of course, it'll become more expensive because a lot of them are based on how many employees you have, but it's not a bad thing to look at. Here's an example of one of my clients. This is ADP system, so it kind of gives you a look in regards to how many things it can do. So, you know, when it has the resources, you can put, like I said, your company resources and tools on there. You can put on there company handbooks, forms, information. You can put company newsletters. You can have some of these, you can even do onboarding videos and stuff and really personalize it. The color scheme of this one is what my clients' colors are. You can put, and I have it blocked out, you can put your company logo and things on this. So even though this is an ADP product, it looks very much like this was made and customized for their company. And in a sense it is, but this is part of their kind of like standard platform in regards to this. And then it has, you know, reports. It has where you can customize reports, setups, and people. So when I need to find information out about her people that are on here, I can go on here and find out if I need to get a hold of an employee, their address, if I need to see what they're making, if they have benefits, I can look that up on her behalf. It says myself because it has set me up as an administrator, but if I'm a manager at a company, this is another thing to look at. I have one-stop shops, and because I have admin rights as a company kind of manager for her, I don't have any information here under me, but I would have my personal information in regards to how much I make and my employment and what positions I've held, and have access to other my employees as well. Now, there's some systems that I've come across that have two different access points. I have a one login that I can go in for my stuff, and then I have to log out and back in as a manager. You want something that's going to be interfacing, one-stop shop that gives me admin rights, and I don't have to keep up with all these different admin, you know, all these different passwords and logins. When you do that, you're going to spend time resetting and setting people's passwords. So this is good, but this kind of gives you kind of a sneak peek in regards to what, you know, what you're looking at. And the nice thing about this is it'll have as different announcements and things come out. You know, you'll log on as an employer and it'll pop up different things you have to be aware of as an employer. And a lot of times at payroll companies, if there's a compliance change, something that's a major in regards to, oh, just a reminder, you know, you have 1 month before the minimum wage increases, or that you had to be compliant with ACA or something like that, or your report filings. A lot of times it will still give you the information. You can't depend on it per se. So if something isn't accurate, it's still up to you, but at least it's one, you know, it helps. All right. So now that we've gone through the HR systems and kind of behind the scenes of things that you'll need, let's talk about some HR trends that you want to be aware of as you're starting your businesses. So some HR trends for 2020, how applicants tracking and recruiting is done is different. There's a lot of AI, when I say AI, artificial intelligence that's being used. And similar to what I was talking about with ZipRecruiter, the systems that it's used, the AI to scan the resumes is huge. And you may say, you know what, I'd rather have control over that just in case, because you can't always trust these, computer fancy systems, right? But how we do applicant recruiting and the interviewing process is definitely a trend that's changing and becoming more automated. So that's something, and where more and more applicants are becoming used to. So you want to make sure that you stay on top of trends with that. Another thing that's very big is people are really looking at employee well-being. I mean, from federal government to state, you're going to see, and I know last week we went through a lot of leave of absences, you'll see that a lot of things are really for work-life balance and family-oriented family leaves and family leaves related to military and, and remote work and virtual work. So it's really connecting to the employees as a whole. So, as we look at systems and work environments, of course, making sure things are safe for your employees and they've got the training and things that they need while they're there. But what about when they're not at work? Because studies have shown that when companies have resources and tools for employees that they can help them with their outside life situations and issues that may come up, then the more productive employees they are when they come to you and when they're working. So these are some things, and that's where companies put an employee assistance program. We started a company, we started with the company, excuse me, where I'm with today. Now, granted, I work now with the entity that has about 4,000 to 5,000 employees. And I say that because when we officially fully reopen, we can get about up to 5,000. But with the cutbacks with COVID, we're cut down to just a little 4,000. But we have a company to where it's called Workplace Partners, to where it's kind of like our chaplain system, where they have coaches that our employees can have access to. So an employee assistance program, or EAP, is really good for quick reference tools if employees need assistance finding the daycare for their child, or information on how to buy a house, or counseling or legal services. EAPs are so good for that. But this takes it a step further. Like, for example, we have an employee, if we had an employee that passed away with the department recently. He had been with the company 25 years, so it hit employees pretty hard. And yes, the EAP has a grievance portion, but this other company that we've just started will work with people individually, and they stay around, where EAP grievance, usually they come in and they come out, where this, they will stay around for as long as needed. So as you can imagine, the cost is a little bit more, but I mean, I tell you, these different resources that companies can provide to their employees is to let them know that, hey, we care about you whether you're at work or outside of work. That is definitely the trend for employees, and helps with retention. Benefit offerings. So not only are employees, appreciative these days of health insurance and medical and all that good stuff, but mental health services are huge. Now with ACA, there's some things with mental health that's built in, which is good, but some of the carriers even offer Blue Cross. We had this package with them, with one company I had, where yes, we had our employee assistance program, and that offered some discounts and some services for counseling and therapy. But Blue Cross had its own mental health, just kind of a mental health based EAP, where all it dealt with were services and support in regards to if people needed someone to talk to, 24/7 assistance. I mean, and because it was connected to our health insurance provider, employees, it gave them unlimited access pretty much. So that's a huge deal, because as we know these days, I mean, there's so many things that people are dealing with and so many stressors. And mental health is not the disability that that you could see anything from dealing with abuse things, or bipolar is a big one, anxiety. A lot of people have anxiety issues. So this is a great resource and tool for them. Employee engagement, employee surveys are becoming bigger and bigger. SurveyMonkey is a popular one that people use. And again, you don't have to be as fancy as that. You can do a form that you do that, but having employees feel again that they can contribute to their work environment and that you appreciate their input and they feel appreciated. They don't have to be the highest paid, but they will stay with you longer and they will be more loyal because of that. Anytime someone feels like they have skin in the game, as we say, right? They act and respond differently, and they will be better workers for you. Focusing on retention, all of these things help with not only attracting the right employees, but retaining them. It's very expensive to use all these systems to post your jobs, the cost and time that it takes to interview, because the interview process can be pretty time consuming, the onboarding, the time it takes to train and everything. And if you have someone that leaves after 90 days or 6 months, that's literally on the train, you're not getting your return on them. So the more services and things we can have to keep someone, that's better. It's kind of like that thing, cheaper to, keep her, right? It's easier for a company to get it right the first time with customers and to try to save that customer or get new customers. It costs more. Same thing with employees. Okay. Another thing that we're dealing with, the dynamics, is that we are still in the midst of dealing with the coronavirus pandemic. And, hopefully soon, and in some areas, they're already dealing with recovery from it. So what does that look like? That changes our whole work dynamic. So number one is safety. How do we keep employees safe outside of just having, the regular safety stuff in regards to, chemicals and stuff like that? But outside of that, how do we prevent if, we have a disease that, comes around like COVID? What's our sanitation like and our cleaning systems like? So some of the other things with safety that maybe we didn't always look at before. Work-life balance as well. I think people are seeing now more and more. I don't know about in Illinois, but in California, we are still dealing with the pandemic. We've unfortunately took a turn for the worse here in Southern California. And we just got the news that the governor issued no schools can open for the fall. Now that's a big deal because now we have employees that can't physically come on site to work because their kids are going to be at home. So what does that mean? How can we still get productivity out of those folks that are not going to be able to always physically be on site? We work out flexible schedules, a rotation. So what does that look like? Remote work, and with that, employee well-being. Again, we talked about the mental well-being, and even people before maybe that didn't have as many issues in regards to anxiety. We have a whole new slew of mental health cases these days because this is a lot. This is a lot for people to deal with. They're dealing with being at home, their spouse at home, maybe that's causing marital issues, the kids at home. I mean, there's all sorts of new dynamics that have entered into home life that are going to cross over into the work life that employers that we want to be prepared for. I talked about remote and flexible work schedules, if that's a possibility. So job sharing maybe for people that now that their kids are at home or something like that, or can't get to work. I know here the bus schedules and transportation is harder to get because of, you can't have so many people in a confined space for a certain amount of time. So it may be harder for people to physically get to work. So we've had that, especially if you have operations that are 24 hours. Technology systems, when we have people maybe working more remotely, people saw an increase in usage of Zoom and WebEx systems, and Facebook has a meeting system now that's similar to a Zoom. So where companies are using and people are using to connect. So what type of technology does the company have in place to be able to do all of this? And because you guys are newer, these are great things to think of now, how you can integrate that into your systems to where if your employees physically can't come on site, how can you still communicate and be able to get productivity and work with them without having any downtime? Keeping employees informed, that's also very big because that keeps our anxiety down, right? What always makes people more nervous is the unknown. So the more they're informed as to how the business is doing, what's going on, it's better. And even outside of COVID, having companies' newsletters talking about growth and success are all, things. The more connected someone feels to the company, the more positive they're going to feel about working there. And again, that retention, the harder they're going to work, the longer they're going to stay. Another thing that I guess never goes out of style, well-trained management, and not only for just managing on site, but to help lead through these changes. The stronger and more confident your managers are, the better they're going to be able to manage through times of crisis, whether it be a severe snowstorm that you may get, or pandemic, or whatever may come through. That's always important. That way you have a good support team, and it's not all on you having to work through these issues. Okay. All right, so we've covered everything. Now we're ready to bring on the employees, right? So kind of like, what do we do day one? What do we need? I've hired someone, I'm getting ready to hire. What is a must have? Well, let's take a look at it. Employee files. How are we going to collect people's information? Where are we going to put it? So look at that. Go get some file folders. I guess this is where I get old school with HR. I'm a paper person. It's just easier in some ways. I know it takes up space. And it's good to have things electronically as well, but systems and computers go down. Paper, stays, and paper can also disappear. So maybe it's good to have a backup as well. But I like that paper tangible also. So have a way to maintain them in a location that's easy to get to and it's secure. Have a fireproof filing cabinet for any of your employment and company and business stuff. Have it for your payroll records, accounting records, and everything. So that way, if there's some type of natural disaster or a fire or something there, it's protected. And I'll tell you, we had for a nonprofit I worked at, where we used to keep our stuff was just in boxes in like a basement, and the basement flooded. So guess what happened to a lot of our forms? So and then that actually became a problem for us in a wage and hour lawsuit. And this was before I came on, but we were in the midst of the lawsuit when I came, and some of the forms that we had that would prove our case were ruined in that flood. So learn from other companies' mistakes and have a good system, and have it to where it's easy to get to. Again, I have my client now that she has her home office and she has her on-site office. And, I can only provide guidance to my clients on how to do things. And she's had her I-9s and stuff that have disappeared and everything because she didn't have a good system for maintaining that. And I physically even did the files for her. And somewhere between the work site and home, they've disappeared. So she's looking for them. They're somewhere. But if you already have that established, immediately it lessens for that chance to happen. Employment forms. If you're not going to use an applicant tracking system and online, and you're going to do paper applications and things like that, have a place that you're going to get that from and where you're going to retain it. Have an I-9 binder. So if you're going to do paper I-9s, which is fine, I-9s don't need to be electronic. In fact, I prefer paper because I-9s are such an important part of making sure someone's legally eligible to work for you. It's good to have that done in person. And you just get a 3-ring binder, and you get one of those divider systems to organize them by alphabet. And it's easy to retain. And if they get termed, you have the back of the binder that you put them in. And that way, if you ever have an I-9 audit, it's a one-stop shop. You hand them the I-9 book and it's done. If you keep I-9s in your employee folders and you hand them with the employee files to the auditor, they now have access to all of your other employment information. Something that's incorrect or something like that, they'll see that. So you never want to give an auditor from a government agency any more access to other things than they need to have. And also make sure you get your labor posters. You have to have your certain postings up by law, whether it be industry, safety, and then also labor-wise in regards to minimum wage and the different agencies. So you want to make sure that you have your state posters up as well as your federal posters, any place where you have your employees. Okay, and they can be in a lunchroom or any shared room. I've had some clients in the past where they said, well, we don't have much space. We have, our employees are field-based, or they come here, they get their truck, they go out for deliveries. We have a bathroom or a small lunchroom. I tell them, well, if at some point all the employees are going to be in the bathroom, put them on the back of the door in the bathroom. And again, those are small operations, but yeah, you want to definitely have it in a place that's employee area. Okay. One of the things too, a great tool that you have are the chambers of commerce. So if you're wondering where to get good forms and things like that, Illinois Chamber, they have good business tools and resources on here. So if you need a sample write-up form, if you need to write someone up, or if you need some applications or any other types of employment forms, they have some forms in here that you can use, or your payroll company may have forms. A lot of the benefit providers as well, they'll have access to something called Think HR, and that's a really good system to have access to. They have trainings on there and forms and things on that as well. All right, and that's our information for today and concludes our last session. Any questions from anyone? What questions do we have? And I will open it up to questions regarding not only what we went through today, but any information that I've given you these past couple months from our 6 seminars. Or any information that didn't exactly get covered that you have questions on as it relates to human resources.
Okay, Corey just commented to all panelists, very good information.
Oh, thank you, Corey. Thank you.
Not seeing any questions yet. I guess one of the questions I have, and this is just because this is something that I do, what do you think about storing your employee information in a cloud-based file system?
I think that's good because it's secure. The only thing is just going to be access to it. I would suggest having, and again, and I will just, my disclaimer is I am a paper person, so I prefer to touch it and stuff. So web-based is good because then if you travel, let's say if you're having to travel and you can't always be on site, that's great to access employee information. Dropbox or something like that is good for that. And you can quickly pull up information. The only thing is if you are on site and you need some quick information, then having to log on to a system and go through all the, kind of the extra steps of having to access it that way versus going and pulling a file really quick. So it could just be the time, the time of it to pull it up web-based, but web-based is a good system. So just the pluses and minuses, and also preference as well. Whatever system you have, you want to make sure that it's easy accessible and that you can maintain stuff in there, that there's backups to it. And then, that it's going to be easy for you to use and upload documents and download documents if you have to print off things for audit and produce documentation. I know one of the things when I worked at the nonprofit, because we got audited by all types of government agencies from our contract, it didn't allow us to have as many automated systems, so we had to file for everything. But it was easy to get to for audits, although some of the stuff I would have at that point preferred to be automated. But so depending on find out what agencies may be visiting to audit you and making sure that you can easily access that information.
Okay.
Yes.
Good
Great
to know. All right, so I have questions. One is regarding making up a missed session. When will we be posting tests by? Desiree, do you know when you'll be getting the questions to us?
I can have that for you guys within the week, so that after, I think you gave them to the 31st to do all the other ones, or?
Yeah, I was giving them to the 31st to also, let's see, what is today? Today is the 18th. Okay. I was giving them to the 31st to also watch those first 2 sessions too.
Okay. So yes, we can have that by the 31st. So I'm going out of town the first week of August. I'll have that to you guys before I go.
Okay. Well, then they'll need to have time to actually watch them and then for us to score the test.
Okay.
So I could extend the deadline for those first 2 sessions. So that part is up to me. So she'll get us a test within the next couple of weeks. And then we'll be getting, so as soon as I get the test, we'll get that sent out to you. And then how will you be receiving the test? That part, it will be by email. So what we'll be doing, if you've taken our surveys before, or you've seen our surveys before, those come via email. And when you guys respond to the survey, our CRM system actually shows that you responded to a survey, and we can actually see your answers. So I'm planning to use the survey for the test, because that way it will all be tied to your record in our CRM system. So it'll be pretty straightforward. We'll be manually, checking the answers or whatever, but it'll be a good way for us to like just have all of our records together, and then we could also like manually add you as attendees once you've actually gone through and done that test. And again, the test is just as a reminder, the test is only for the first 2 sessions. So you don't need to do a test if you missed 3, 4, or 5, because those sessions are available via Zoom rebroadcast, and Zoom rebroadcast has a record keeping feature in it that will track each person's logins. So I'll be able to see, I'll pick on Corey because I know him personally. Oh, Corey missed session 3. Corey's gone into Zoom and actually watched session 3 later. And so I'll be able to see that. So I won't need for any additional stuff to happen for any session beyond session 2. Any other questions that anybody may have? So I hope that was clear. If that wasn't clear, somebody type something in the chat or send another question. So yeah, we'll get all that done and taken care of as soon as possible. And if for some reason, okay, so somebody said, okay, sorry. So I said, will you receive the test within the week? You'll receive the test. I can't say that will happen, because Desiree is a busy person and I'm a busy person. I can't say you'll receive it within a week. You'll receive it as soon as it's available. It could be within a week. But if it's not, because I said the 31st, which was an arbitrary date, because I was thinking like, okay, well, today is the 18th. That's a couple of weeks. You can go back and watch the other sessions and take notes or whatever you want to do for sessions 1 and 2. But if I end up having, like, if you didn't get the test until later, I'm not gonna like hold you to the 31st. If it goes into August, it's quite all right, because I make the deadlines. I can do what I want to do. So I'm not gonna be like, no, sorry, you didn't take the test on time. So I can extend the deadline if necessary, but that's really gonna be dependent on how quickly we can get it out to you. And I guess I could turn my video back on because I'm making hand gestures. And hopefully, if we don't make it, we don't have any technical issues, because I'm using the survey in a way the survey normally isn't used. I've already talked to the support people and they're like, this should work. But, as long as we don't have any technical issues and everything happens the way it's supposed to, then, I'll put these deadlines out there. But if I have to extend it, I'll do that, because, stuff happens. Okay, let's see what else we got. So thank you all for coming. Thank you I've seen the same names in here over and over again. I know you guys have really enjoyed the sessions and have learned so much to be able to get things going. One last thing I should say, as soon as we get licenses, for those of you who are waiting, as soon as you get your license, if you want to have a one-on-one with Desiree, please contact us to schedule that, to get something lined up. And let me type in the chat really quick our email address, and let me put it to everyone. So if you need the test, because that's the only way we're going to know who needs it. We're not sending it to everybody because we have 400 people on our list. and that's just way too much. If you need a test because you missed session 1 or 2, and it's only for session 1 or 2, then send an email to cannabis@the-trep-school. That is our email address. And that's to let us know that you need to take the test. And I'm trying to talk and type. You guys know I'm not good at that. Because you missed session 1 or 2. That's the only time that applies. So I don't have anything else. Let me double check the questions because I didn't clear. Oh, nope. Okay, we're good. I think I answered all of them out loud.
Well, all right. Well, that's all I have on my end. Thank you so much for having me do this, Tricia. It's been an amazing process and experience, and I wish all of you guys much success with your businesses and the best, and very excited for you all.
Somebody raised their hand. Wait a minute. I think it popped up, but it went away. So I think it was Lindsay. Lindsay, if you have a question or something, if you can, well, you raised your hand, you should be able to type it in the Q&A or type it in the chat. Oh, that was an accident. Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. Well, thank you, Desiree. It has been great. And look for an email from you guys.
All right. Well, have a great weekend.
You too.
Stay cool.
Yes, stay cool. Stay cool and corona-free.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Bye, everybody.